Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Key into Quality, where we explore healthcare quality trends and solutions. I'm Dr. Tim Morgenthaler, a professor of medicine here at Mayo Clinic and vice chair of Mayo Clinic Quality. And today, we are continuing our insightful conversation with Dr. Sunanda Kane, Mayo Clinic's Chief Patient Experience Officer. If you joined us last time, you heard about the importance of patient experience and how it extends beyond satisfaction surveys to encompass every touch point in a patient's journey. But today, we're going to dive deeper into the evolving landscape of patient experience and some of the challenges and opportunities they present. Co-hosting with me today, Sherry Nemec. Sherry?
Hello, everyone. I'm Sherry Nemec, Consultation and Relationship Manager for Quality at Mayo Clinic, and I'm super excited to continue our conversation with Dr. Kane today.
Yeah, I think we got so carried away last time we just couldn't finish. So,
We
uh,
couldn't fit it all in.
Susan Kane, welcome back.
Well, thank you for having me back.
We had such a great discussion last time, and we're going to kind of launch off of some of those things. In our last conversation, you were touching on the connection between patient experience and staff well-being. I just wanted to pick up that thread. What strategies have you seen that are working the best to ensure that positive experience for both patients and healthcare workforce work hand in hand?
Yeah, so I did a little bit of pre-work here for our conversation, and there are two different things that I want to highlight and talk about in this respect. So one is the patient visitor conduct work unit that we have, and that they have been very busy and have in 2024 processed over 4,300 incidents of poor patient behavior, whether that is yelling, assault, spitting, hitting, punching, to the whole gamut, and that we've rolled out mandatory workplace violence training for all of our staff. And so what does this mean? It means that we are serious about trying to keep our work staff safe. And when they feel that the administration is listening and that we have their safety in mind, they're going to feel better about trying to deliver the best care that they can. So that's one of the things that's hand in hand, that you have to keep your work staff safe as well as happy to be able to provide care. So safety was number one, and we're actually putting together a work group for, again, emphasizing what we're doing, which is tangible for the workforce to realize that we have their safety in mind, top of mind, so that they can provide good care. Then the other work unit that falls under patient experiences are training, education, and coaching, where there have been over 1,000 trainings of 21,000 participants, that we have individually coached 35 physician leaders in close to 300 sessions, done training to help folks understand how to work better with patients, work better with each other, and how to prevent burnout so that they can then provide the best care that they know how to do. 133 conversation guides have been developed on different challenging communication situations. So that's quite a few, it's pretty comprehensive. And so again, training, educating the work staff as to you're not alone. Here's what you can do to make your workplace safer and more pleasant. And that gives everybody a feeling that, hey, you care about me. And so I now can go ahead and care for patients.
So I just want to pause for a moment and just digest a little bit of what you just threw out
Yeah,
at us
that
there.
was incredible.
That was amazing because I'm, first of all, just dealing with the numbers.
Mhm.
And I'm just going to say this. I don't mean this to be an advertisement, but I think all of our listeners know that if you really want to know what people value, you look at their calendar and you look at their pocketbook, and you can learn a lot about what they really value because it's what they're spending time and resources on. And you're talking about how many thousand educational sessions did you just say?
So over 1,000 trainings that reach 21,000 participants.
Yeah. So I'm gathering, if I asked you, does Mayo Clinic take seriously the task of equipping individuals to help improve staff and patient experiences? I'm guessing you would stomp on that with a big affirmative.
Agreed, yes. And this is across the enterprise. So this
Yeah.
isn't like, oh, Rochester is the mothership and that we ignore the other destination sites and that the health system is the poor stepchild. No, no, no. This is that we are an enterprise and we want to provide this kind of access and resources to every single one of our Mayo employees
So,
across the enterprise.
so that's kind of the 30,000-foot view, like, wow. But let me bring that down just a little bit. So let's pretend a minute I'm a newly hatched physician. I've received, excellent training wherever I've come from, St. Elsewhere. I'm coming on to Mayo Clinic staff. I have a bright future. What training am I going to receive from the patient experience part of Mayo Clinic? What training might I expect to hear? How would that go?
So I'm so glad you asked that because actually in the professionalism and values
Yes.
work group and unit that they actually have an amazing set of resources and courses that they teach 1 to 2 days to offer to the new hires about empathic listening, about how to have a difficult conversation, about a crucial conversation, how to de-escalate an angry patient or situation. And those courses are offered as somebody is in their first year, that they're just getting used to the Mayo system, and then they realize, oh goodness, I need a little bit more in my toolkit here, and then they can go off and do these courses with the context of the kind of practice that they want to have and
Yeah.
that Mayo expects.
I just think that's so important because when you're, a young physician starting your practice, there's a lot of things that you're assimilating. I mean, you're trying to figure out how to take care of these complex patients, how to do it in a new system, maybe with new electronic health record. You're trying to get the lay of the land. And at the same time, that you have so much to learn in terms of growing your ability to really connect with patients and provide the kind of care that they need. So thanks.
So, Dr. Kane, you just mentioned about, we all know what's talked about right away in orientation again is highly valued. And both patient experience, staff experience, culture of safety, right? Those things are all so intertwined. So, what other things is Mayo doing to really understand patient experience, additional things you're focusing on? What else can you share with us?
This conversation is timed so perfectly because a good portion of my team is actually in Salt Lake City for these few days because they are at the Qualtrics annual meeting. And Qualtrics is an organization that we partner with to use large language modeling to understand our data, and that patient experience data, so feedback that we get from our patient advisory council, that we get back from the free text comments that come in on our Press Ganey surveys and our HCAPS surveys. We partner with Qualtrics to analyze that for signals, for understanding opportunities, and that there are other institutions that are as interested in doing this for their own improvement as we are. So what are we doing? We are trying to understand where AI fits in, what are the CRMs that are important and can be the most helpful for us to actually get the most out of the data that we are collecting. Are we even collecting the right data? I think we are. We have just, piles and piles, that's not the right word, but, just an inordinate amount of data that we don't know what to do with, and we need to sort through it, and we need to understand it. And so that's sort of where we're headed. In the last year, we did initiate a Power BI dashboard. The Power BI dashboards have been used for other systems and obviously for safety issues, but now we have one for experience so that all staff can actually look at the data transparently in terms of the number of complaints that we get, where they're coming from, not just complaints, but also grievances, what buckets do they fall into, and it's real-time access. And so that has really given us a lot of ammunition to be able to say, oh goodness, okay, well, it's not just falls, on a unit. It's now, hey, patients are complaining about the food or, that it's too noisy. And so real-time data where we can actually react so that we can fix things is where we are at, and we want to improve on that by now being proactive with the use of all of the data that we have and analyzing it in such a way that we can actually then operationalize our thoughts. And, so at the end of the day, we are about hope and healing. And that's great, but how do we do that? And how do we use the data that we have access to forward that kind of mission?
Yeah, well, so let me ask a question in there. So we have these surveys and, they score on a, scale of 1 to 5 and so forth and so on. And you're talking now that we're digging much deeper into the comments that people voluntarily offer, which can be positive, can be
Very
negative.
rich.
I know I get, our practice has little visits from your group that are partnering with us, and they say, hey, here's the great things that people are saying about, what they experienced here. And here's some things about concerns that they've expressed. When you're talking about the real time, you were mentioning like on a hospital. So what
Right.
structures do we have in place, or are we trying to get in place so that, let's say, on the 4th floor of Mary Bry, which is a hospital building in our hospital system here, all of a sudden there's more complaints about noise. And people didn't, of course, when they think about it, oh yeah, there's construction going on right next door. What's the feedback loop? How you're getting that real-time data, your team sees that. How are we now getting into the, okay, that's the what now, what's the so what?
Right. So there, behind the scenes, there are so many people that have access to these dashboards that every day look at the data for these dashboards. So beforehand, these people worked, but they didn't know how to understand what they were looking at. They were looking at retrospective data. And so data that was months old. But now these same people who are in the quality space now have real-time data. So that includes the folks like Jill Nagel, who at the hospital level can be looking at individual floor data. There are, though, the interested charge nurses. There are the
Does this become part of the cascading huddles that we've been doing?
Exactly, exactly. So we are trying to implement and put into place a structured huddle system where there's huddles at the floor level and then at the hospital level. And then we already have a very nice one at the enterprise level. So at 11 a.m. every day Central Time, there is an enterprise-wide huddle where we share the number of events that occurred overnight, and if it's Monday, what happened over the weekend. And we highlight those instances where there's a concern, whether we're concerned about a trend of something. And this is where we found out about a great example is what was happening with the cleaning of the blood pressure cuffs. So a new system was started where they were using this certain kind of cleanser wipe to clean the blood pressure cuffs in the surgical areas. And one day a patient had a horrible allergic reaction that was exactly correlated with the blood pressure cuff. So that got written up. And then, hey, wait a minute, there was a third patient, a fourth patient, a 27th patient now. And this rose to the level of the huddle. And hey, it turns out that there are a lot of people who are reacting to this cleanser of the blood pressure cuff. And so it led to a change in the cleaning process. Same thing with the pumps, and you're
Yep.
both nodding.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. There have been a lot of awesome things that we've discovered very quickly and been able to respond through that tiered huddle process we have now. So Dr. Kane, you've talked a lot about great accomplishments, things that the experience team has done over the last year. What are your next steps? Where are the places you're going from here? You mentioned a little bit about continuing to mature, understanding our comments, sentiment, right? Really digging into
Correct.
that. What
Yeah.
else?
So that's a really big part of it.
Good.
But we have so much information and data that we have not tapped into, and trying to understand what we have available to us so that we can then act upon it. That we've been quite smart in that on our Press Ganey HCAPS surveys that we don't just leave a blank text box for people to randomly leave comments.
Yeah.
What we've
Words
done
like
is,
good, it was okay, right?
right. What we
Nothing.
have done is, so we have that, but
Yeah.
in addition to that, which is unique to Mayo, is that we have actually asked, what was the thing that impressed you the most? And a text box. And then
Such a
what was
great
the
question.
thing, what were the, the thing or the things that disappointed you the most? And so sort of prompted people to leave us comments, and then the blank text box for anything else that people wanted to comment on, but that we're sort of prompting them to tell us, what did we do well? And asking it in such a way that they feel comfortable to answer that. And also, well, what disappointed you, so that we're evoking emotion and then action based on that emotion.
That's
Fantastic.
wonderful.
So we have time for one last
Oh,
question.
no, just okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, no,
it
it goes
just
so
goes so
fast, doesn't
fast.
it?
I know. So we just want to express gratitude for you leading, the changes in patient experience efforts here at Mayo, and for the fantastic work that happens and makes it a great place to work. But for healthcare leaders who might be listening, who want to make a real impact on patient experience, but are trying to figure out the best place to start, what would you say are the first 3 actions they should take to move their organization forward? How would you prioritize, or give it doesn't have to be the top 3, but the 3 that come to mind?
Well, one is survey your staff about how safe they feel and how burnt out they are. Because if, again, we started off our conversation with a happy, safe staff are going to take care of patients, and patients will thereby be safe and happy.
Fantastic.
So make sure that your staff knows that you as a leader care about them. Number 2, that you use the data that you actually have and that you analyze it in a smart way. It does take resources, but it pays off dividends down the road if you can have smarter people than yourself tell you what your patients are telling you. Because we all have the anecdote of the super happy patient, and we have the anecdote of the super unhappy patient. And somewhere in between lies the truth, right? So that, that there's definitely opportunities that you don't recognize based on what people are telling you. And then 3rd, that it's educating folks about what patient experience is. Patient experience is not just patient satisfaction. And I think that really is something that I every day have to explain to my colleagues, that everybody has an experience, that they're not going to necessarily be satisfied, but they will understand that they had a good experience overall. And so that's what we're aiming for, is to understand every part of that experience journey.
Wow. Well, thank you so much. Thanks for sharing your wisdom and your time, your energy with us. It's always fun when you finish a podcast and you've got more energy than when you started. So that's a tribute to you and the work that you do. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you. This was awesome. Thank you so much for letting me share.
All right. So we've come to the end of our podcast, listeners. We're really glad you could join us. I'm sure the information provided has been insightful and valuable. Again, Mayo Clinic's Key into Quality podcast aims to highlight some of the first steps in addressing all of the important quality challenges that you have in your organization. Our goal is to improve quality for patients and populations that we all serve. If you enjoyed our podcast, we would really be grateful if you left us a review on Apple Podcasts, a rating on Spotify, or feedback wherever you listen. You can also follow us on your favorite podcast platform. Also, let others in your organization know about the podcast so learnings can be spread. Until next time, goodbye.